Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have an early impression video and a triple header. So you'll have to forgive my absence. I know I rarely go more than one day without doing a YouTube video. And I missed you guys. I was actually in the Big Easy. I was in New Orleans and we had to stay for about a week or so. And that's about been my absence. So now I am back in the saddle and it's good to be back, because I have missed you guys and I've missed doing these videos. I miss talking perfume with you. It's one of my favorite things to do. I just love talking shop, talking fragrance with you guys and gals about perfume, something I love. And I have a little bit of a unique taste. That taste is gonna show a little bit in today's review, but I wanna give just a quick disclaimer. This is a true early impression, almost like a first impression. It's not a first impression because I've been wearing it today, but this is a very tough fragrance for me to describe. But I want to put this video out now while it's fresh in my brain, because I don't want it to sit by the wayside, because there are actually 0 YouTube videos on this fragrance, which is stunning, shocking to me, because, well, first of all, I didn't even know about the fragrance. And second of all, I have to give a special shout out to Frank. He goes by ScoobyDooby on YouTube on his username, and he actually sent me this. So this is Halston's Limited. So he sent me a mini, very kind gift. It actually says gift at the top, not for sale. They used to give these out back in the day. And Halston Limited came in the very famous red blood cell, pinched blood cell bottle is what I call it, which I actually really like these bottles. But it came out in 1987. That's what we're going to talk about today. But remember, this is a true early impression. There's going to be very limited information out there about this fragrance, but I wanted to put it out because I think this fragrance deserves more talk. This is a fantastic fragrance. One of my favorite Halstons instantly. Is it full bottle worthy for me? I'll tell you right now, the answer is yes. But before we kind of get into my thoughts on it, we're going to do some unboxings, 3 unboxings. I've had some stuff build up while I've been away. And so first of all, we're going to do Armando the Fair. Sent me this. And so Armando the Fair gets a special shout out. He is crowned as one of the most important influencers of Channel Ram, because he has constantly kept me you know, in the loop on what he's selling. And so some things he sent me for free, some things I actually purchased off of him, but he has expanded my palette drastically, and that's what this is about. You know, this whole channel is really about sort of following my journey and what I've been exploring. And there are thousands and thousands and thousands of fragrances. There's no way one person can know everything without either having friends in the community that kind of show you things. And that's part of why I wanted to do these videos, to be quite honest with you. The reason that I wanted to do these videos is because of the fact that I just thought that there wasn't enough of this type of content out there. Just this honest sort of content. Whether I hype something, whether I hate something, it's what I feel. And I try to stay, you know, I try to be as uninfluenced by any other factors as possible. And because this is not a business for me, this is a hobby. I don't have to say good things about a fragrance, or I don't have to worry about offending a brand and getting cut off, because I don't care. If I offend a brand, oh well. You know, you don't like what I have to say? Too bad, right? And that's important to me. So this is actually a freebie, very, very kindly sent to me by Armando. And interestingly, the more of these type of unknown fragrances to me that he kind of sends to me, the bigger the fragrance gets with the vintage community. It's a little bit of a loop. You know, he's in this sort of loop. And he sent me a message a week ago or so before I left and said he made this his scent of the day and he really enjoyed it. I said, I've never smelled it. And now here it is. This is from the house of Fabergé, and this is called Turbo Cologne for Men. Do you guys know this one? I hardly ever see anyone talk about it. I think it is a cheapie. I think you can still get bottles of Turbo for a respectable price. It's fresh. It's a little bit of like a Drakkar Noir freshness. Let's see, Turbo for men from Fabergé Turbo. 1982. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you would think I would absolutely love. And what's funny is, as a vintage lover, we're talking today about two fragrances I've never heard of. I've never really, they weren't even on my radar until people in the community basically brought them up to me. So it just goes to show, it's one of my favorite things about this hobby is that there are hundreds, thousands of fragrances to uncover, to learn about, to explore. And even when you think you know as much as you need to know, you uncover hundreds more. So like these two, Halston Limited and now Turbo, they weren't even on my radar. And now we're talking about them on the channel. So Turbo is considered a spicy green fragrance from 1982. Bergamot, lavender, anise, cumin, petitgrain, rosemary, fern note. So it's a fougere. Cedar, clove, geranium, marjoram, patchouli, and pepper, with ambergris, leather, moss, musk, and tonka bean. So it's spicy and green and woody, and it has that 80s, early 80s fougere vibe about it. But just smelling it from the top, it's a splash. Just smelling it from the top, it feels like there's a little bit of this freshness to it, which Drakkar Noir will take and really run with. So I'm guessing that this was kind of sat in the background. It didn't really take off, but I'm very glad to have it, and can't wait to get to know it and talk about it on the channel. Thank you, Armando. Very kind of you, mate. Okay, next on the list, we have a mini, and this is, I'm even more excited about this one than Turbo, because this is a little harder to find. It's a little rarer, and it's something that I actually heard someone in the community that I really trust talk about, and that is Farad Pour Homme. So this is a little mini, Farad Pour Homme. And Farad Pour Homme I'm even more excited about because, so if you pull up the note listing of Farad Pour Homme, what you have is a fragrance that sounds like it was made for me. 1984? It's not listed. So it's a leathery fragrance. It's a citrusy, spicy, leathery fragrance from what I know about it. No note listing according to Parfumo, which is a shame, but here, let me go to base notes. Let's see what base notes says. Farad Pour Homme. It did come out in 1984, so we're in my favorite decade again. Let's see what base notes has to say. Luis Farad. Here we go. Farad Pour Homme. Base note says 1985. And they also have no note listing. Okay, but it is discontinued. It is discontinued. So Farad Pour Homme, there's a review on base notes by Varanus Radari, which I trust his nose, and so I'll read that later on. But yeah, supposedly this sort of leathery, suede-y, spicy fragrance. I mean, my kind of scent. So Farad Pour Homme gets put on the radar. Another one I've never smelled from the 80s. So again, this is kind of proving my point. Now, this one I know what it is. This is what got this entire haul going, if you want to call it that. This fragrance haul going. This is a vintage Amouage, a snap cap Amouage. I bought a couple of these from Armando already. I bought the snap cap version of Jubilation 25, which I'm so glad I did, hearing some of the people talk about Jubilation, 40 coming out, the Extrait or whatever it is. I wore this one day. I've only worn it once since I got it, but it is, and it's the newer version that I have, which is the magnetic cap, but it has the name written right here on the collar, and it's not written on the front. So it's still a vintage, older bottle, but it's not as old as the snap cap. For the first 6 to 8 hours, the fragrances are so close together, you almost can't tell them apart. And that's exactly how I feel about Interlude Man. I got the snap cap Interlude from Armando as well. And the first 6, 7 hours there, I mean, it's almost like, what's the point of hunting down a true vintage? But the difference with this and the one that I have is the longevity. The longevity on these snap caps are out of this world a day, 24 hours. It's unreal. It is absolutely unreal. And so one of my favorite Amouages, and actually one of my favorite office fragrances, maybe I'll do an office fragrance video one day, but one of the greatest office fragrances of all time, in my opinion, maybe the greatest, this would be really hard not to put number one, is this. This is Dia Man. So this is a vintage snap cap. Oh, this is a vintage snap cap of Dia Man. And so, yes, absolutely stoked. Absolutely stoked to have this. Just because of what Amouage is doing with their, what Amouage is doing with their formulas and, putting out the exceptional extras at triple the price and all the stuff that they're doing. I've already made myself clear as far as how I feel about what Amouage is doing. I'm not a fan of what the new guy, the Fishman as I call him, that replaced Christopher Chong, Renaud Salman, is doing. So this is my bottle, my original Dia bottle, and then this is the snap cap version. So you can kind of see the difference in the bottom there. So yes, I am stoked to have this. Absolutely stoked to have it. I love Dia. Absolutely love Dia Man. Okay, so that's one package. The next one is actually from our good friend Galen. So we've got Armando, we have Galen, and we're going to close with Hari. So all friends from the community, and that's really the way to go. I mean, if you go to eBay and you try to buy some of these fragrances that we're talking about today, I mean, the markups from some of the sellers are just outrageous, absolutely outrageous. So yes, this is the way to go. You have to kind of make friends in the community and go from there. That's whenever someone kind of breaks up a collection, that's a great way to try to get a handful of fragrances at a better price than what you can just get going to eBay. So the first one is this little bad boy, Biehl Parfumkunstwerke, which I actually did a blind sniff video. And again, thanks to Armando, he put this together, this blind sniff, where I don't know what the fragrance is. It's just numbered, and then there's like a key on the side. So after I smell it and give my thoughts, I can discover what it is. And this was actually one of them, AL03. And I actually really like this. I thought that it smelled like a vintage fragrance, but it was actually a modern niche fragrance. And this house is a very interesting house. Biehl Parfumkunstwerke. 2011, this one came out, and it's spicy, leathery. I doubt I'll find another one from this line that I like more than this. I haven't smelled the other ones, but my guess is this will probably be my favorite, just because of the style of what it is. It says that Arturo Landi is the perfumer, and you can kind of see him there. It must have been destiny that made the trained chemist become a perfumer by chance, which is fortunate because the fun-loving Italian who has chosen to live in Germany epitomizes a fragrance designer. His style, opulent, grand, complex, opera to the nose. His works, AL03, it's the one we're talking about here. Severe sophistication, warm, crisp, and definitely nothing for the kids. Well, that's good because I don't like the stuff for the kids. Biehl Parfumkunstwerke consider itself to be an olfactory gallery. Its aim is to create a free space for perfume artists who can present their extraordinary creations to an audience without having to take market research into consideration and maximal margins into consideration. So this story of this house feels like Frederick Mall. Like it feels like a Frederick Mall type house. And so this one is AL03. And it's like something in the cap. So AL03, I said, reminds me a lot of a Jill Sander fragrance. Like if you've ever watched my reviews of Jill Sander Man Pure, I've got a playlist, a Jill Sander playlist. Go check out my early thoughts on the early Jill Sander fragrances from the 80s. And that's what I think this kind of feels like. It feels like a niche version of a Jill Sander Man. The way that they kind of use the castoreum and leather and frankincense and stuff like that. Slightly smoky, slightly animalic, but blended beautifully with this very posh iris, and there's a slight peachiness to it. Spicy, leathery is kind of the overtone. Very vintage smelling, but in a niche form. So awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Thank you, Galen. Thank you for being very fair with me, mate. Galen obviously could have twisted my arm further, but he did not. So that's one. So the next one on the list is going to be one that's been on the list for a long time. A long, long time. And again, I want you guys to understand I am not doing these videos to stunt or flex or anything like that. I just want to show you guys what I'm going for. What is what's pulling my chain enough to make me want to pull the trigger on a full bottle. This is Avignon. So I love incense. Actually, incense is one of my favorite notes. Frankincense is one of my favorite notes. And this is done by one of the masters. This is a Bertrand Duchaufour creation. And I have never smelled this before, actually, at all. So this has been on the list forever, and this is basically a full bottle. Let's see what he got me here. Yeah, it's basically full. It's, how big are these? 50 mils. So these are 50 mils. And so yes, very excited to have this. My Comme des Garcons collection grows. So it's Cistus, Elemi resin, Brazilian rosewood, which I love. One of my favorite notes. Frankincense, Roman chamomile. Roman chamomile and patchouli. So thank you again, Galen. And then we've got a couple more things here. So we have Histoires de Parfums, Noir Patchouli. So this is a house that I think is very underrated. Not a lot of people talk about Histoires de Parfums. There's a couple that I really, really like from the house. And if you're into perfume kind of the way we're into perfume, the ones that I think you should try to get your nose on first is Rare Fidelis. That's an amazing oud fragrance. But with coffee and all these other crazy notes. It's a Julien Rasquinet. And, if you like the way that he did his fragrance style for like Frederick Mall's The Moon, they're different fragrances, but it's the same perfumer. Check out Rare Fidelis. And the other one, which I'm shocked is not bigger in the fragrance community amongst folks like us that love perfume, is 1740. 1740 has one of the most unbelievable blends of leather and Immortelle, one of my favorite Immortelle fragrances of all time. So this is one that a lot of people talked about that they really loved, that Noir Patchouli, one of their favorite earthy, spicy patchoulis. I've never smelled it yet, so this will make a great little video. And I love these little 15 mil sizes that that Histoires de Parfum does. I'm a huge fan of these. I wish more houses did this. So yes, earthy, spicy, patchouli, cardamom, coriander, juniper, leather, musk, moss, vetiver, vanilla. Good stuff. Very excited to get to know this. Originating in the Far East, patchouli leaves exude an intensely bewitching scent for an elixir that awakens the soul and invigorates the senses. Okay. I'm running out of room here. You go over there. Okay. Next on the list, we have a Serge Luton. So I have been hunting these older Serge, as you guys know. This is Bois et Fruits. Bois et Fruits. And so these older Serges, anytime they come up at a relatively decent price, I'll try to grab them. They are getting harder and harder to find. And I have been collecting these older Serges. So this one, Bois et Fruits, and this is actually the Palais Royal version. Comes with a little book. Let's see what we have here. Perfume is a stimulant of the senses, a tonic for the spirit. Perfume is impalpable in substance. A substance, a concentration, a contour. It is our own shadow. It is a luxurious mirage, our transparency, a majestic choreography, a kind of inner palace, an architecture of exquisite crystal. Okay, Serge. Well written, my friend. Serge Luton's press conferences and writings are always so out there. It's crazy. All right, so I'm going to put the little atomizer. They come where you can make them splashes, or you can actually use the atomizer, and I just leave the atomizer in. I don't like going back and forth. Anytime you get a chance to collect these older Serge bottles, if you're a collector, they are on the list. At least for me, they are. So this goes to the collection. Bois et Fruits. Good stuff. Let me look up the note listing while we're just kicking the shit on these. Okay, so Bois et Fruits. To all the Frenchmen out there, I do apologize. I am not a French speaker, and I will never claim to be one. But yes, if your ears are bleeding, I do apologize. So Bois et Fruits is plum, cedarwood, apricot, peach, and fig. It's Christopher Sheldrake, of course, from 1992. Oh, I'm sure that's going to be fantastic. You know, instantly just smelling it from the atomizer, the way that the plum and the cedarwood interact, no one does cedarwood like Serge Luton. It's like he has like a very specific type and style, and the way he kind of blends everything together. I've never smelled cedarwood the way that he does it. And if you've smelled some of his fragrances that use cedarwood, like Serge Noir, for example, Féminité du Bois, Cèdre is another one, which uses like a cedar and tuberose, and Bois et Fruits is another one with cedarwood and plum. You will see this similarity, this sort of trend. Uncle Serge is such a great niche house, one of the best niche houses of all time. They were better when you could find these for like $50. But yes, very excited to have that. And then we have some samples. So we've got a little decant of Metallica, which I tried to get them to sell me a 10 ml decant, but I'm happy with as much Metallica as I can get. It's probably number one on my wish list of fragrances. As far as if I could get one full bottle of almost anything right now, it would probably be Metallica. It would probably be Metallica. And finally, we have this. This is Eau de Rochas. Now, I've talked about Eau de Rochas Pour Homme, which looks like this. So this is Eau de Rochas Pour Homme, which is one of the best summertime citrus fragrances. Very floral, citrusy scent. Oh, so great for the summer. fantastic. That's Eau de Rochas pour homme. This is Eau de Rochas. This is the feminine version that came first, if I'm not mistaken. And I think this might be a vintage bottle. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is. So Eau de Rochas is Eau de Rochas. 1970 this came out. And it's citrusy, fresh. Let's see, who made this one? It doesn't say. Let me see if I can figure out who the distributor is. Eau de Rochas, beautiful bottle. I'm going to have to get to know this. Very interesting. Thank you, Galen. Very, very kind of you, mate. Very kind of you. It's discontinued. Eau de Rochas is discontinued. According to Parfumo, it's discontinued. It's spicy green chypre. Citrusy, fresh, floral chypre. I love these inserts. Again, it's not so much the insert. It's what's written on the insert that I love. A cascade of sparkling notes. Verbena, tangerine, grapefruit amid a swirl of wild notes. Wild rose, mountain narcissus upon a base of amber and sandalwood. The invigorating freshness of the Eau de Rochas Eau de Toilette can be enjoyed in the Eau de Rochas Bath and Body range as well. Okay, very cool. Very, very cool. So I've got to press my top secret log on to stay logged in, or the system's going to kick me out. So bear with me 1 second. We'll do this on the fly here. It won't take but a minute. Okay. We should be good to go. We should still be able to stay on. Okay, so that's box number 2. Thank you, Galen. Thank you, Armando. Thank you, Galen. And finally, we have Hari's box. So, I'm going to open this down here just so I can open it without having to worry about giving away mine and Hari's address to everybody. So first we have some decants again. This is Creed's Royal English Leather, which I actually have a bottle of, and it's one of my favorite gray cap Creeds. One of my favorite gray cap Creeds by far. And then we have Synthetic Jungle, which I just did a video on. I just did a video on Synthetic Jungle, and I absolutely love it. Like, I would even consider buying a bottle of that. And then we have Iris Gallia by Ensar Oudh. This is one that will make a hell of a late night insight video. Obviously, not enough to wear as my scent of the day, but this will be fantastic for a nighttime video. I love getting to know these Ensars. Oh, I can't wait to get to know that. And then we have, in this little trinket collection, we've got Japanese Rose by Ensar. Oh, these will be great. These will be awesome late night insight videos. And finally, we've got Musk Gardenia. Musk Gardenia from the Berkhan edition of Ensar. Awesome. Anytime I get to talk about an Ensar, it's an absolute privilege and a blessing. It's a house that I definitely want to get to know more. And finally, we have E01 Sultani. I'm really looking forward to this one. I've got to jot these down, because if I don't make a note that I actually own them right now, I'll forget all about them. So apologies for having the unboxing, the triple unboxing, take up 30 minutes, but I have to do it. E01 Sultani. Here we go. E01 Sultani. I love EO1, by the way. It is one of my favorites. I've got it somewhere. I ended up buying a bottle. I ended up buying actually 2 bottles. I love it so much. Musk Gardenia. JKLM. Musk Gardenia. Here we go. He's got a couple of different versions of Musk Gardenia. This is the Birke Khan edition. I don't see this particular one listed, so I'm just going to go ahead and go with the regular Musk Gardenia. There's a blue lotus note in here, which Sultan Pasha used to perfection in Sacred Scarab. That's a note that Bortnkioff and Sultan Pasha have been using pretty regularly. Japanese rose. Japanese rose. Whoops, that's not right. Let's see, Japanese. Sultan Pasha has like 17 pages of, I know he kind of releases one and it gets discontinued immediately because it's so rare, but he's got a lot of stuff he's put out. It's not even listed. This one's not even listed on Parfumo, which is crazy because Parfumo has everything. And then Iris Gallia Pure Parfum from 2019. I'm really excited about this. Someone I really trust in the comments said that this is the best iris of all time to him. So that's quite the statement. It was on my wish list. So now I can put it on my decants. Okay, excellent. Let me just make one more note here about the Royal English Leather. Okay, decant. All right, so we'll move on to the main events here. Oh, no! We have leakage? Oh, no, we have big leakage. Oh, that sucks. This one really, really leaked. I thought I smelled something, but yeah, I didn't. I was hoping it didn't leak. Okay, let me cut this open. Let's see how bad this is. Let me do surgery real quick. Oh, that sucks. I don't know if I'm going to be able to really do a real impression of that Halston Limited. This stuff is all over my hands now. Hang on. Don't go anywhere. Stay with me, folks. Okay. So what leaked? I think this is what leaked. So this is Mona di Orio's Oudh Osmanthus. So I can sort of see the line from the sun, and it's still right about here. So it's no big deal, other than it's just all over my hands. Smells amazing. I can't wait to get to know Oudh Osmanthus. This actually had a name before it was called Oudh Osmanthus, and that name eludes me. Let me look it up real quick. Oudh Osmanthus. So this came out 2011, and it used to be called Les Nombres d'Oudh. Les Nombres d'Oudh. And so it's Philippine Elemi, Calabrian Green Mandarin Orange, Papayan Petitgran, Chinese Osmanthus Absolute, Laotian Oud, Nagamatha, ambergris, Atlas cedar, Indonesian patchouli, and musk. So that is, I am really excited to try that bad boy. And then, I think this one leaked too. I wonder what's with the leakage. Or this could be actually from, from one of the other ones. I'm not sure which one's leaking now because it's all over. It is all over. I hate wasting perfume. Oh no. Are you the culprit? Oh no, you are the culprit. Oh no, and it's the one that I really wanted to. Oh no. Oh no. What an absolute travesty. Oh, it came apart at the top. Look, I'll show you. Look. It completely came apart at the top. That's what happened. And this is the one that I really wanted. This is Sir Winston. I mean, it's not Hari's fault, but damn, I mean, this is the one that, this was the deal maker for me. Fuck. Damn. Damn, that hurts. Pain. That is pain and suffering live on YouTube, folks. Absolute pain and suffering. Oh. Yeah, it's all over all of the packages. So, yeah, I guess the others are fine. The Oudh Osmanthus and the others are going to be fine, but that was the star of the show. Fuck. Painful. Absolute painful. So this one, so this is called Fusion Sacree. And this is actually the very first from this Majda Bekkali brand for me. Let me look it up here. Fusion Sacrée Obscur, is that what it's called? Yeah, Obscur, exactly, from 2012. It's a sweet, spicy, rum, coffee, caramel, licorice fragrance. And Bertrand Duchaufour actually did this. So yes, Fusion Sacrée Obscur. Very interesting stuff. Man, I am bummed about that Bortnkioff. That absolutely sucks. And finally, we've got a... Finally, we have a... We have a perfume from another brand that's been kind of up and coming as far as I'm concerned. It's a brand that I've been excited to get to know. And it is a brand called Mayo Fusciuni. Fusciuni, excuse me. Mayo Fusciuni is how you're supposed to say it. And Mayo Fusciuni made a fragrance called... So this is called Little Song. So this is my first full bottle of Mayo Fusciuni. And so I've done a couple videos on his house if you want to go check them out. I've got a Mayo Fusciuni playlist now. And Little Song is a 2018 release. It's pink pepper, ginger, and bergamot with coffee, Liatris spicata, Turkish rose absolute, bourbon vetiver, tobacco absolute, civet, labdanum absolute, musk, and sage absolute. And I've enjoyed what I've got to know from his work. It's never overpowering. It's always, there's little details to discover. You know, everything is very well blended. I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan. I can't wait to get to know Little Song a little bit better. Okay, so now that the unboxings are out of the way, let's talk about Halston Limited. So, the first thing that struck me about Halston Limited is that there are 0 videos on YouTube about this. None. Nothing. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of rushed putting this out there. I wanted to talk about it because I feel like it deserves some limelight. And I also disagree. So some of the notes that I've made, and again, it's not a lot, okay? And now I'm having trouble. Actually, I just reapplied, and all I can smell is the Bortnkioff, the Sir Winston that's on my hands. But I disagree with Parfumo. If you go take a look, usually the main accords that they show are spot on. And it'll say stuff like, you know, chypre, fougere, floral, spicy, you know, citrus, all that stuff. This one, the main one, the biggest circle, if you will, because they're done kind of in circles, with the bigger circles being the more prominent accords, shows sweet. I completely disagree with that. I don't think that the main accord is sweet at all. And so that's number one. When you go doing your research on Halston Limited, understand that this is not a sweet fragrance at all. But something happened when I sprayed it. So the very first time that I sprayed Halston Limited, I was like, I've smelled this before. 100% I've smelled this before. And it took me about half an hour to decipher where I've smelled this. And I've actually never smelled this, believe it or not. But this is heavily influenced by a fragrance that came a couple years before Halston Limited, interestingly enough. And it drove me mad. I mean, I was like looking for half an hour. I was like going through my collection. What is it? And as soon as I saw it, it hit me. All it took was just seeing it. And that is why I constantly preach that it's kind of important to expand on your nose, to try to understand the past. If you want to understand kind of where perfumery goes, you have to understand the past to understand the future. And this is 1987. But even a 1987 fragrance was influenced by a fragrance from 1983. And before I show you which one it is, the fragrance and Halston Limited actually share something like 12 notes in common. They are unbelievably linked to the hip. And the notes that they share in common are, they both have basil in the top. They both have clove. They both have rose, coriander, patchouli, vetiver, castoreum, musk. Sorry, there is no castoreum note listed in the other one, but there is a leather note listed in both. And that castoreum, I think, is used to kind of create the leather note. They both have tonka bean. They both have cistus. So they both have that labdanum-like feel, and they both have moss. Hell of a comparison between the two. And the fragrance that it actually reminds me of is this. This is Missoni Uomo. So this was actually getting talked about today on Rich's stream, amongst other things. And he was talking a little bit about Missoni Uomo and how there is this divergence between what the fragrance is selling for stateside versus what it's selling for in England, and the eBay prices. And I think that Enchanté Perfumes, I think Amouage still has bottles of this if you're interested in picking one up. But this is discontinued, and this is the original masculine by the House of Missoni from 1983. So it's a leathery, spicy fragrance. The note listings are uncannily similar, like I said. Also, the smell for the first couple hours is uncannily similar. So imagine that you take a piece of this very fizzy, citrusy sort of opening, very energetic opening, but very strange. There's a strangeness to Missoni Uomo. And both of the fragrances, the strangeness I actually get less from here. So I think if you're going to compare the two, I would actually take Halston Limited, believe it or not, personally. I really fell in love with this. I like this, but I've always said that there's this weirdness to it. I think that I think only really the hardcore collectors would really get to appreciate this, whereas I think maybe an average person nowadays could wear Halston Limited and kind of get away with it get away with it easier than Missoni Uomo. And the reason I say that is they both sort of open up. Imagine you take like a piece of leather, okay, like this full grain leather, but you dip it in this bucket of citruses, and especially in the case of Halston Limited, this aldehydic citrus sort of fizziness, okay? So imagine you sort of dip the leather in, and there's almost like a reaction when you put it in. And that reaction gives off this strange combination between these green notes. There's this green-like opening. Missoni Uomo actually lists a galbanum note. There's no galbanum listed in Halston Limited, but there is green notes listed. So there could be a little bit of galbanum, but I'm telling you, the first couple hours are uncanny. Uncanny. Very rarely do I smell a fragrance and go, oh my God, what is this? I've smelled this before, what is it? A lot of times I'll kind of pick up similarities between fragrances and that kind of thing. But almost never do I smell a fragrance and go, damn, I have to remember exact, because this is so close. This is definitely inspired. Halston Limited is definitely inspired by Missoni Uomo, to me, to my nose. And the frags do start to kind of go their own direction in a couple hours. So a couple hours, you start to notice differences between the two. The first couple hours are very, very close to each other. Maybe one day I'll even do a true comparison video, but just some differences off the top. Missoni Uomo has an ambergris note listed in the base. There is no ambergris note listed for Halston Limited, but there is this amberiness. Okay, so there's this amberiness that you'll kind of get in the base of Halston Limited. And one of the reasons why I think maybe it feels, it doesn't have that weird vibe to it like Missoni Uomo does, is that it does dry down to something that feels slightly, you still get the spices, you still get the clove, you get little hints of, you get hints of the rose here and there. So you get hints of the castoreum, but it's very, I would say, subdued. Okay, so you're not going to get anything that's going to be this big. It's not a huge animalic bomb, but it's there that you're smelling something from the past. You'll get the real oak moss, 100%. You'll get the real oak moss. But as it dries down, it kind of turns into something, it kind of turns into something that is slightly more ambery, slightly more, it goes away from that. You know, sometimes ambergris, real ambergris, which I think there is real ambergris in this, sometimes it gives off this sort of strange quality to it because it's slightly animalic. It's what the sperm whale ate, but it's also, you know, it's slightly, it has these salty, watery, aquatic facets to it sometimes. And sometimes the smell can just come across as being a little bit weird. And that may be what's giving off this weirdness with Missoni Uomo. Whereas Halston Limited, it's almost like you can just sort of appreciate the ride. There's this smoothness to it. There's this elegance to it. There's this, you can pick out the pieces here and there. And so you can say, okay, I can really appreciate little bits and pieces of the green Artemisia, and you can appreciate little bits and pieces of the leather and all of these different categories that the fragrance starts to turn into, little bits of patchouli, little bits of coriander, which are the cilantro seeds themselves. So little bits of coriander, clove. Clove is a spice that you'll pick up in both, 100%, absolutely. But the reason that I am spending so much time on kind of comparing the two is if you've smelled one, like if you smelled Halston Limited from 87, and then you smell Missoni Uomo, you'll be like, wow, this smells very much like Halston Limited. Whereas if you've experienced Missoni Uomo first, and then you smell Halston Limited, you'll constantly keep referring back. They are so close in the opening. So you have to give kind of points to Missoni Uomo for coming first, but I really do feel like Halston Limited came along and almost refined the process. They almost, You know, they took a fragrance that I like this, but they almost turned it into a love, if that makes sense. So here, I'll read you the little blurb. There is a little blurb because they always come with these little cards from back in the day. So here's what they had to say about the fragrance. A special word about Halston Limited. You are among the privileged few to experience the newest men's fragrance to follow the award-winning successes of Halston Z14 and 112, which of course, the pinched red blood vessel bottle, if you will, became very popular with Z14, which is their their most famous fragrance. And then 112. Both of these came out in the 1970s. Both are discontinued now, according to Parfumo, as is Halston Limited. All three of these that we're talking about are discontinued. But you can see the bottle design and how iconic of a bottle design it is for Halston to stick through it even a decade or so later. And even into the 2000s, they've continued to make fragrances that kind of carry this iconic bottle design. And it says, sample this compelling brilliance of bergamot and mandarin, herbs and spices, woods and moss, with an under warmth of musk and amber. I would add leather to that. Under warmth of musk and amber and leather. Truly one of the new rewards of success to possess and to prize. Halston Limited for the privileged few. And so I know that is not a very in-depth review of Halston Limited, but honestly, I don't think I can give you an in-depth review yet. For one day of wearing it, all I can tell you is that it is a huge comparison to Missoni Uomo. I like how it has the touches, the 80s touches. I think you'll get little bits of fragrances that came before Halston Limited. There's a little bit of things like Calvin by Calvin Klein or Kipling by Parfums Biehl. But to me, number one is this, Missoni Uomo. And so it's in this style, if you will, but it's almost unfathomable to me that in Fragcom, you know, in 2023, that nobody has uploaded a video on Halston Limited. So if you're here only for Halston Limited, or if which is probably unlikely since I've never even heard of it until Frank sent it to me very kindly, and you sat through half an hour of unboxings to get to this content about it, I would urge you to try to get a sample. It's still out there, but it's obviously very rare. I don't know if it was discontinued pretty quickly or what, but if you like leathery, ambery, spicy, woody, slightly animalic fragrances that have some elegance to them. You know, you have to remember in the 80s, it was all about sort of that ambery warmth that came out. Calvin Klein's Obsession came out. KL and KL Homme by Lagerfeld came out. That sort of ambery, slightly animalic, but powdery amberyness was really the hit. And so this is, I think, taking some of that amberiness into account, but putting it to work in what they considered to be obviously a classic, because some of the stuff I read online on base notes and stuff is saying, they used kind of the blueprint of Z14 and Halston 112. I disagree. I don't think they used the blueprints of that at all. The only thing they used is the bottle. I think the fragrance itself is much more styled after Missoni Uomo. Since we don't know who the perfumer is, actually, if you go to Parfumo, it just says the perfumer for Missoni Uomo is IFF. So obviously, I'm thinking that probably an IFF perfumer did this to have it so close. And maybe back then, you know, with the fact that the information was just not as readily available, maybe they were thinking that having something that was so close wouldn't be such a big deal. And now that these are kind of lost to the dustbins of history, unless you have experience, unless you've smelled these sort of things, you probably would not even pick up on the similarities, the connections between the two. And that's one of the things I love so much about this hobby is the discovery aspect. So I don't want to go over an hour rambling about Halston Limited. The unboxing, do let me know what your favorites from the unboxing are. Sorry for the broken bottle, sheds a tear to my eye, but I'm glad to get what I got here. Very excited to get to talk about these on the channel. If you happen to have experience with Halston Limited, I would love to hear your thoughts, okay? Do let me know what you think. Leave a comment below. I try to respond to every single comment that I can. And likes and subscriptions and all that stuff do help the channel. So we're going to get back in the swing of things. First video back. I'm sure as the days go on, the flow will return and we'll be back in the saddle in no time. So thanks everybody for watching. Can't wait to see you guys again next time. Cheers.